Trust you had a great weekend, and I welcome you to Rooted and Relevant. And we've been going through some financial stewardship principles and the fact that money does not come with instructions. What did God intend for us to do with the money that He provides for us? And remember that opportunities come from God, responsibility is ours because we will one day be accountable to the one who gave us the opportunity and the responsibility with that which he has entrusted to us. And so today we're looking at what are some financial frustrations. I can't tell you the number of people down through the years as I've counseled them through their finances who have said to me, it seems like we make enough money. And I remember John Maxwell has a great quote: "You either tell your money where to go, or you will wonder where it went." In other words, if you don't spend it down in your budget, in other words, if you're not intentional with what you're doing with your money, it will just seem to vanish, and you will spend it on things that you just don't even remember. It will come easily. Credit cards, debit cards have made that so that it doesn't feel like you're spending money. You don't see it. I'm still a big proponent of cash. Why? Because you see it going out of your wallet, and you know how much is there. On a credit card, yes, I know all of the dynamics, and I'm not against credit cards. I think they're a tool, but just like any tool, if it's used irresponsibly, it can become dangerous. It can hurt the person or hurt someone else, and that's exactly what happens with credit cards. It's the credit card is not able to do anything in and of itself, but in the hands of an irresponsible person, it can do a lot of damage. And so I'm not against credit cards, but I just really do believe that from a psychological impact, watching the cash go out of your wallet, out of your hand, is sometimes more impactful than just swiping a card or putting your card on, and or nowadays even using your phone, and all of a sudden you've paid for the item but you didn't really feel it. And so we want to look at what are some financial frustrations, what puts people in a place where they feel like it seems like I make enough money. It seems like I should have more at the end of the month. How did they get there? Well, look at Proverbs 23, verses 4 and 5 says, labor not to be rich, cease from thine own wisdom. This is in the context of don't be trying to impress people. The context is don't go to the king because you've been invited to something because he's made you feel important. If you're the type of person that makes decisions when people make you feel important, in other words, if people can flatter you to make a decision, then you better put a knife to your throat. Why? Because you're given to appetites, and people can then steer you however they want just by the words they use and the flattering that they give. God says you're going to have to be smarter than that. You're going to have to be more intentional than that. So in that context where God is saying, listen, beware where you are prone to make something of yourself, or you want people to think something of you. Financial stewardship is showing people you're grateful to God and accountable to God. It really reflects God as the giver and you as the steward. As soon as you think the things that you have are to impress people with you, you're already on a bad path. So he says, labor not to be rich, cease from thine own wisdom. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle towards heaven. And so I just want to give to us a couple of principles that lead to financial frustration. Number one is being a spender rather than being guarded. In other words, if you just spend because you want, if you find yourself easily just spending without calculating the cost, researching wisdom, searching your heart for, is this something that I'm just flattering myself with, or is this really something that God would have me do with his resources? Then I think that we are going to spend our way into frustration. So, spending rather than being guarded and cautious will lead to financial frustration. The second thing is being speedy rather than governed. I don't know about you, but one of the things that's frustrating to me is when they put a governor on a vehicle, what simply means it can only go so fast. I will admit I have a need for speed. I like to get where I'm going and get there quickly. A governor is designed to only allow it to get to a certain place, and then you can't go any faster. Well, it's this idea of not rushing into decisions. It's not about making rash, thought through decisions. And so God warns us that if we tend to rush into decisions rather than being governed in those decisions, it can lead to financial frustration. The third thing is being stingy rather than generous. In other words, God warns us about not wanting to give because we want it for ourselves. Saying, you know what, I know they have a need, but I have a want. I know that I could be a blessing, but I want. God says, be careful of that because you're never going to satisfy the want bug. But it is more blessed to give than to receive. And so, one way to lead to financial frustration is being stingy rather than generous, being stubborn rather than gracious. In other words, we should be quick to lend our time. We should be quick to use our property. We should be quick to give our money. We should be quick to utilize our talents. We should be looking for opportunities to where we can serve and not being stubborn with that which God has given to us. Remember, God is the one who gives opportunities. We are responsible with them. So when God presents opportunity, don't be stubborn and stiff-necked. Embrace what God is doing and make what God wants successful. A way to lead to financial frustration is being stubborn rather than gracious. Number 5, being selfish rather than giving. I've already mentioned this one. It kind of goes the same way with stingy versus generous, but selfishness can take on all kinds of forms. In other words, it doesn't just have to be with money. It can actually show itself in our outlook on life, the way we approach life, is that we become very self-absorbed. One of the challenges that a parent of an only child has is teaching them how to share, teaching them that the world doesn't evolve around them, because it's easy as a parent when you have one kid to provide for that kid, to protect that kid, to enjoy that kid, to do things with that kid. And if you're not careful, your child begins to think that, man, everybody wants to do this with me. And that's just not real life. And so there's a concerted effort on the part of parents with only children to engage them in friends and to put them in situations of responsibility and to make them learn to give of themselves and not always be expecting for themselves. And so here's the idea that one way that'll lead to financial frustration is if you think life evolves around you rather than the opportunity to invest in other people. And then being self-centered rather than God-centered. In other words, life isn't here to make you happy. Life is here to make God happy. We're here to make God look good. He is not present to make us look good. And so when we are utilizing the opportunities that God has given to us and exercising our responsibility in, we have to remember that the goal is not our happiness. Our goal is God's name being glorified. And so whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do all to the glory of God. Why? Well, because as God entrusts finances to us, the way that we will live frustrated is if we are a spender rather than guarded, speedy rather than governed, stingy rather than generous, stubborn rather than gracious, selfish rather than giving, and self centered rather than God centered. I hope you have a great day. I'm looking forward to a great week. I hope you have one. God bless.